It's not love, it's fear. It hurts to read it, I know. But sometimes the heart needs someone to say out loud the sentence you've been avoiding for years. It's not love when you choke every time the phone rings, when you breathe with relief only if their message arrives, when you dress yourself in calm to hide the earthquake. It's not love when your body contracts more than it expands. It's not love when you insist on holding a bond that only stays up with your trembling hands. It's fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough. Fear of making a mistake. Fear of starting over. Fear of looking silence in the face and recognizing that silence is also an answer. I'm going to speak to you as I would to a friend at midnight, with a cup of tea in my hands and a clear gaze. I want this episode to be a safe room to say exactly what hurts, to name what confuses, to stop what wears you down. If something inside you whispers it's not love, pay attention. That voice isn't here to punish you, it's here to rescue you. We're not going to demonize your story or sanctify the drama. We're going to discern, because discerning saves lives. Before we continue, I'm very curious to know from where in the world and at what time you're joining today. I'd love to read you in the comments. If you stay, it's because you're ready. Ready to look with maturity at the signs you don't want to see. Ready to grieve an illusion that has held you up until now, but no longer holds you. Ready to learn to love from a place that doesn't bleach you out. If you feel resistance, welcome. Resistance is the gateway to change. Take a deep breath. We're going to go in layers. Skin, muscle, bone. No rush, no excuses, no frills. When I say, it's not love, it's fear. I'm not insulting your story. I'm giving a loving diagnosis. Fear doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Fear is an alarm system that turned into the conductor of the orchestra. And when fear conducts, the music is loud, intense, vibrant, but never harmonious. That's why we confuse intensity with love. We get used to the roller coaster, the dopamine highs each time they show up, the free fall when they disappear, the momentary numbness when they agree to something you asked for, and the hangover the next day when it's missing again. That chemical curve isn't proof of love, it's proof of withdrawal and reward. If you feel it, don't blame yourself. Recognize it. Naming what's happening to you is the first act of respect toward yourself. The signs are there. It's just that you've learned to read them in reverse. Where it says, distance, you read, they need space, and I can give it. Where it says, there's no project, you read with patience, there will be. Where it says, promises, and doesn't follow through, you read, they don't know how to love like I do, but they can learn if I stay. Where it says, it hurts, you read, I'm exaggerating. Where it says, ignores me, you read, they must be busy. Where it says, it's not reciprocal, you read, maybe not today. Tomorrow, yes. Don't judge yourself for translating backwards. One day you were taught that being good meant waiting, that loving was insisting, that holding on was enduring, and with that grammar you grew. Today, we're going to unlearn it. Do you know the most honest symptom that it's not love? The feeling that you have to prove your worth to receive crumbs? You become the manager of other people's expectations, always on time, always available, always understanding. You are the woman who gets it, the one who doesn't demand, the one who adapts. You do everything not to be a burden, and yet you carry everything. Adult love doesn't demand endless tests. Adult love doesn't put you in an exam every Sunday night. Adult love doesn't measure your worth by how many times you stay quiet. Adult love recognizes you even when you say no. If you can't say no, it's not love, it's fear. There are nights when you put the phone face down so you won't look at it, but your hand still trembles reaching for the screen. You say you don't care, that you're fine, that everyone has their timing. Then you laugh at something random. Take a bright photo. Keep light conversations. And at 2 a.m, you're writing a message you'll delete. Just wanted to know if you got home okay. In reality, you just wanted to know if you still exist for that person. That trace of desperation, disguised as care, doesn't make you ridiculous. It makes you someone trying to get oxygen through a straw. The problem isn't the need. The problem is looking for air where there is none. But I don't want to rush. Before talking about how to let go, I want to gently show you the signs, not to torture you, but so you stop fighting with your intuition. Your intuition already showed them to you. It only needed someone to list them with words that don't harm. Sometimes language is a scalpel, sometimes a warm bandage. One sign is hypervigilance. You turn into an investigator. You watch tiny changes in tone, in frequency, in response time. You read the haha as coldness, the emoji as pity, the short call as disinterest. Paradox. You are so attentive to every detail that you stop seeing the whole picture. The whole picture is simple. You spend more time worrying about losing than enjoying being. If the bond is sustained more by your alertness than by its rest, it's not love, it's fear. Another sign is the incoherence of your own voice. You say you won't tolerate certain things, and when they happen, you convince yourself that it's not such a big deal. You promise that if it happens again, you'll leave, and it happens again, and you stay. That back and forth exhausts you more than the other person's faults, because your nervous system can't stand being at war with your promises. Love doesn't force you to betray yourself. If keeping it means breaking agreements with yourself, it's not love, it's fear. A third sign. You confuse relief with joy. You feel happy when they write back. Happy? Look closely. It's a strange happiness, like a glass of water after 2 days walking through the desert. It's relief. Relief from no longer having to carry the anguish of silence. Love shouldn't be based on relieving chronic pains created by the bond itself. Love also soothes, yes, but it soothes life, not the wound it opened. I'm talking now about the rescue fantasy. You believe your patience will transform the other. You believe your calm explanations will teach them what no one knew how to teach. You believe your capacity to love will deactivate their fears. You believe that if you endure long enough, one day, everything will fall into place. I understand you. We also grew up with movies where love was a mission, and the woman, a healer. But adult love doesn't place anyone's rehabilitation on your shoulders. Adult love cares without losing itself. If you're losing yourself while caring, it's not love, it's fear of being useless, fear of having no role if you stop saving. I suggest we pause in a scene. That Sunday you call hard. Late breakfast, mind in mixed mode, heart with micropulses. He or she shows up in bursts, then vanishes. You plan the afternoon just in case. You want to act like nothing's wrong, but inside you are arranging a territory sown with mines. That way of living drains your creativity, your humor, your capacity for presence with your friends, with your children, with your work. Does it seem exaggerated? Review your last week. How many moments weren't truly inhabited because you were thinking whether to write, whether to wait, whether, maybe now yes? Fear steals what love gives back. Presence. There's a story I want to tell you. Her name is Lucia. Lucia met someone who seemed to have that spark one longs for. Freedom, wit, last-minute plans, kisses that smelled like summer. Lucia let herself go. 3 weeks in, something changed. The others started replying more slowly, canceling meetups, saying, "I don't promise," talking about going with the flow. Lucia, who valued clear projects, decided to be flexible so as not to scare them off. She tried for 6 months. She learned to be a fish in waters that weren't hers. If you ask Lucia what she remembers, she'll tell you. The feeling of being about to be chosen. That almost drove me crazy. Almost is a weapon. It keeps you there, gives you the minimum dose of hope so you won't let go. Lucia wasn't in love. She was waiting. And waiting, when you already have the information, is fear with perfume. Where is that fear held up? Often, in old stories. Not to psychoanalyze everything, but out of honesty. The girl you were may have learned that she had to strive to be seen, that love arrived when she kept quiet, that affection was a prize for good behavior. When someone appears who leaves you at the threshold, a part of you recognizes the waiting room and sits with discipline. See? You're not crazy. You're loyal to a choreography. The good news is, you can learn another. Pause. We need to breathe. I don't want this episode to be a scolding for your heart. I want it to be a change of hands. From fear to maturity. Let's talk about emotional maturity. Maturity isn't coldness. It isn't cynicism. It isn't suspecting love. Maturity is being able to hold the truth without your identity collapsing. It's being able to look at a bond and say, this is good for me, or this is draining me. It's being able to make decisions that hurt you but honor you. It's being able to decide not to chase. Not because the other is bad, but because you no longer want to lose yourself. What does maturity feel like in the body? It feels like space. Like having enough air to think, to create, to cook without looking at your phone, to read 2 chapters in a row without checking if they've replied yet. Maturity gives you your rhythm back. Fear either speeds you up or paralyzes you. Love regulates you. Even if there's emotion, the body doesn't live in permanent alert. If your bond leaves you on alert, you're not falling in love, you're defending yourself. Allow me to name other signs that often disguise themselves as love, but are fear, when you accept conditions that contradict your values, hoping they'll change later. When you need constant confirmation that everything is fine, because, in truth, everything is wobbling. When you prioritize how he or she sees you over how you see yourself. When you catch yourself saying phrases you didn't think were yours. I can settle. It's fine. That's how it is. Maybe I expect too much. When you idealize the first days and use them to justify the following months. When your creativity, your humor, your self-care, and your social life shrink to sustain the maybe. When you find yourself competing with ghosts, with other people, with yourself, for a place that should be yours without a tournament. When every conversation is a negotiation in which you give up a little more. When you switch off parts of yourself to fit a mold that doesn't outline you. If you nodded at several, don't blame yourself. You're seeing. Seeing is half the journey. The other half isn't heroic, it's practical. Practice starts with one gesture. Stop fighting the information. If they say, I don't want a relationship, believe it. Don't ask the future what the present already told you. If they show you inconsistency, believe it. Don't ask the past to justify today. If they make you feel small, look at it without metaphors. Either the space is too small for you, or you're making yourself small out of habit. In both cases, you have an option. Recover your size, not to take up space by shoving, but to withdraw from where you don't belong. I'm talking now about a tool that saves, the reality journal. I don't mean writing poems, though you can, but recording facts. What did they say? What did they do? What happened? How did I feel before, during, and after? Facts and body. You'll be surprised how much of your anguish comes from the distance between what you record and what you expect. Gifting ourselves evidence reduces the spell. The spell usually feeds on the narrative we invent to survive. Facts, not conjectures. Body, not myths. Another tool. The conversation with yourself before the conversation with the other person. What do I really want? What do I need? What won't I negotiate? If you say it out loud in an empty room and it sounds foreign, it's not yours yet. Repeat it until you believe it. When you go to speak, arrive with clarity, not with hunger. Hunger makes you ask for what the other cannot give. Clarity lets you decide whether to stay or leave without theatrics. Let's talk about chosen ignorance. I know. It sounds harsh. Sometimes you don't see certain signs because seeing them forces you to make decisions that scare you today. Maybe living with a maybe hurts less than facing the loneliness of a no. Maybe you prefer to believe they love you badly rather than accept they don't love you as you need. Maybe choosing ambiguity lets you postpone the dizziness of starting over. It's okay to acknowledge it. But remember, every pain you postpone accrues interest. Lucidity hurts once. Avoidance hurts every day. I want to build a bridge to the body because your physiology matters to me. The fear we call love lights up your nervous system as if you were living in constant emergency. You sleep worse. You eat worse. You get sick more. You live in a short circuit. Love doesn't make you sick. I'm telling you with all the simplicity in the world, love improves your health. Because it regulates, because it lets you release your neck and loosen your back, because it brings honest laughter, because your stomach is no longer clenched. If your bond makes you ill, it's not a mystery, it's data. I know there are stories that confuse us because they combine care and harm. There are tendernesses that coexist with contempt, precious attentions followed by cruel disappearances. There the brain becomes addicted to the intermittent. The intermittent is the hardest pattern to quit. What appears and disappears at times produces more addiction than what never appears. Because the sometimes yes tricks the system. It makes you believe it depends on you for it to be more times yes. It doesn't depend on you. You're not the director of someone else's movie. You are the protagonist of your own. Let's talk about dignity. Dignity isn't a solemn word, it's very everyday. Dignity is turning off the phone when you've already said what you had to say. Dignity is not turning every goodbye into a drama, so it will hurt less. Dignity is not asking, drunk with nostalgia, for what's sober you wouldn't accept. Dignity is stopping begging for information that changes nothing. Dignity is returning to yourself when the world gets too noisy. Dignity is saying, this far, and backing it with actions. Dignity is crying in your own favor. And forgiveness? Forgiveness isn't going back to the same thing as if nothing happened. Forgiveness is not wishing harm to the one who harmed you, but above all, not wishing yourself harm by returning to what harms you. You can forgive and step aside. You can understand and move. I understand why you did what you did, and for that very reason I'm not staying, is a mature sentence. It doesn't need a spectacle. It needs a backbone and courage. I'll tell you Mara's story. Mara loved a man who seemed like a harbor. That was her word. Harbor. To arrive and feel safe. Over time, the harbor had unpredictable tides. Days of the lighthouse lit and days of blackout. Mara believed her patience would steady the wave. Years passed. One day, walking through her neighborhood, she saw a couple buying bread and laughing. What was every day looked like poetry to her. She sat on a bench and wrote 3 sentences in a notebook. I want a simple life. I want bread and laughter. I want a kind routine. She didn't write, I want intensity. I want storm. I want a test. She went back home, prepared her exit, did it without a scene. She cried for weeks. Then, one Sunday, she bought bread. She laughed with a friend. Simplicity hurt because it was new, but it was hers. Sometimes the love you're clinging to isn't a harbor. It's a swell you learned to surf because you didn't know bays existed. I could end here, but we still owe ourselves one topic: solitude. Many will tell you have to learn to be alone. They repeat it so much it sounds like an empty slogan. I don't want to give you a slogan. I want to give you meaning. Being alone isn't a penance, it's a workshop. It's the place where you listen to yourself again without interference, where you give yourself treatment that doesn't denigrate you, where your skin recovers its real size, where your house becomes habitable for you. It's not forever if you don't want it to be, but it's necessary when you've lost yourself too much in others. Solitude doesn't steal love from you. It takes away the illusion that it only exists in one form. And because I don't want to leave you without practice, I propose some gestures. Not lists, not rules. Gestures that invite muscle. Make silence after each truth. Don't explain it. Let it settle. When the urge to write appears, first lift a glass of water. If the urge remains, write in a note you won't send. If it persists after 20 minutes, decide from lucidity. Close conversations that drag on from nostalgia. The last message repeated doesn't open doors, it reopens wounds. If you promise something to yourself, put it on the calendar as if it were an appointment with someone else. Your word with yourself counts the same. Save screenshots of conversations that confuse you. Read them cold 2 days later. Sometimes the emotional fridge is the best therapist. Sleep. No one makes good decisions in sleep deficit. And what if I'm wrong? You'll say to me, you will be wrong. The new mode is learned clumsily. There will be days when you give in again. There will be days when you run to the phone. There will be nights when the pillow witnesses your nostalgia. It's okay. The only thing I ask is that each time you return to yourself sooner. Don't turn a stumble into a permanent return. Don't punish yourself for missing. Missing is also proof that you gave yourself. Don't turn to stone to avoid feeling. Become a woman able to hold what you feel without losing yourself. I want to visit a point you might not expect. Gratitude for what you learned. Yes, even from that story that broke you. Because it showed you something vital. Your capacity to love is not in doubt. What's being reviewed is your capacity to choose. Choose where, with whom, at what price. Choose without sacrificing your respect. Choose without selling your calm. Choose without erasing your voice. That's the mastery that opens after fear, and it's beautiful. Now imagine a near future, not a fairy tale, but an ordinary Tuesday. You wake up, and your first thought isn't, did they text? It's, what do I need today? You make coffee. You write 3 lines for yourself. You work. You laugh with someone on the team. In the mid-afternoon, you walk. A song you like plays. The phone vibrates, and your heart doesn't race. You look at it or not, as you please. You arrive home and cook something simple. You call a friend to tell her an idea. You read. You fall asleep at a kind hour. There are no fireworks. There is peace. Peace has bad press because it doesn't make noise. But it's the unshakable base on which everything else stands. If whoever arrives can't inhabit that peace with you, they're not a villain. They're a character from another story. You can love them and let them go. You can recognize their beauty and not stay. You can be grateful for what you shared and not prolong what takes from you. It's called adult love. And adult love starts at home. It's not love, it's fear. Until you choose differently. And when you choose differently, fear is still there, but it no longer drives. You go with it, as a co-pilot, looking at it sometimes with tenderness, saying, thanks for the warning, and returning it to its seat. You drive. Your clarity drives. Your calm drives. Your dignity drives. If at any point in this episode you felt a pang in your chest, don't be scared. There's truth there. Truth pricks to wake you, not to wound you. Maybe today you won't make any decision, and that's okay. Maybe today is simply the day you finally admit that what you called love was fear. And that act of honesty opens a crack where light comes in. Let it in. Light doesn't demand. Light doesn't shout. Light reveals. I'll close with something simple. I invite you to repeat softly when the impulse to chase returns. I'm not saying no to love. I'm saying no to fear, disguised as love. Then breathe. Count to 8. Walk a bit. Call your life by its name. Return to the table that's been waiting for a while. The table where you eat with yourself with no leftovers, where you speak with yourself without lies, where you promise yourself without impossible deadlines. That's where it all begins. If this conversation touched you, share it with that woman who came to mind when you read, "It's not love, it's fear." Do it with care, without pushing. Sometimes a clean mirror is enough for the soul to recognize itself. And if you decide to write in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is for you, it will be a pleasure to read you. We may not know each other, but something unites us, the desire to live a life where loving is not synonymous with losing yourself.